Now, I've made a previous video where I explained why people are upset about George R. R. Martin and his inability to finish the last book. Basically, it comes down to people having invested a lot of time, effort, and money into the series and making George R. R. Martin wealthy, and in exchange, he's now giving the middle finger to fans, treating them with disrespect, basically treating the people that pay him as if they're less than him. And recently, Martin himself has explained why he can't finish the last book. And it's because, as you can see here, it's because of fascismus, right? So George R. R. Martin, at his age, who understands history, he understands mankind as he demonstrated in his books, is just finding himself at the computer about to write. And it's not the problems that are happening in China that bothers him. It's not what's happening in Israel that's upsetting him. It's not the Ukrainian thing that's upsetting him. No. It's like, God damn it, why did the AfD win in Germany? Why don't the Europeans want more image? What is wrong with them? This is the rise of fascismus, right? It's not the fact that people are getting arrested in UK for emojis that they're tweeting. No, that's fine. That's fine. This is like fascismus, the AfD. So, people were laughing and they were mocking him because Lord of the Rings was written during World War II. Like, there have been more difficult times in human history where people have managed to write magnum opus. But with Game of Thrones, no, like, it's not going to be written because of fascism. So, like, every single day, there's going to be something else. Even if fascism doesn't happen, if the European Union conquers the entire world, if the United Nations manage to assimilate every single human being on the planet, and we're governed, and Greta Thunberg is being set as the policy czar, and all is well, there's going to be probably something else that will keep Martin from writing. I don't know. He's going to figure it out. But the reality is we're never getting this book. And this argument is also full of shit. Like, no one is believing what he is saying. And I found a very interesting tweet. And I rarely do this. I rarely find something and I just read it on the channel. But I think it's quite insightful that it's worth a read. So, the analysis from this gentleman by the name of Devon Erickson says that the Song of Ice and Fire isn't supposed to be dark, Machiavellian, hopeless, or a subversion of Tolkien work at all. It's just supposed to start that way. So the formula is that you have a low fantasy version of the British Isle torn apart by multi-sided Machiavellian power struggles, which are loosely based on the War of the Roses. Things are bad because Machiavellian power struggle. In the background, subtle hints of external magical otherworldly threats, warring factions scoff and ignore it at first, and then you have the high fantasy tropes, where the prophesized hero emerges to unite the morally grey factions into an ambiguously good pro-civilization force to confront and defeat the unambiguously evil threat to all life. I kind of agree with this assessment, sort of, but it's the idea that, yeah, like you have the White Walkers, which are irredeemably evil. Like they're a pure fantasy race that is promoting death. Like they are the undead. There's no reasoning with them. There's no talking with them. They shouldn't be sympathetic. They are a threat to all life. And on Westeros, you're going to have Jon Snow, which is going to have to unite everybody under a banner, and you have a final battle between good and evil. You have the battle between ice and fire. So, the heroism is going to be triumphant, humanity is triumphant, the realm is unified, and peace and prosperity. I don't know if this is the actual ending that he's going to go with, but it would make sense. Now, the story, in order to be completed, as it wants to be completed, as it yearns to be completed, would cause every dark and gritty Machiavellian moment to be fully justified. Every chapter and scene filled with thugs and villains and no heroes at all would also be fully justified, because they would merely serve to emphasize the rarity of heroes and the need for them. And it's true. Like, if you have a universe where heroes just pop out of everywhere and every single person is a good-natured being, then it's not impressive to see an actual hero. But if you have a world that's grim dark, and every person is Machiavellian and out for themselves, but you have like these rare individuals that are actually causing acts of good and are trying to unite humanity against the evil, then they do become the stuff of legends. And it's why this story is actually incredibly well written. But unfortunately, George cannot write it. Why? Because he's a socialist and a boomer. Socialist motivational is core envy. And its underlying rule is thou shalt not be better than me. The boomer's single guiding principle is whatever makes me feel pleasure right now is good, and whatever makes me feel bad right now is evil. Take these together and you get someone who has a real problem with heroes. Heroes are by definition the best of us, at least on some dimension. And if your underlying motivation is envy, starting next to one is going to make you feel bad. This really explains the inclusivity consultants that keep making these absolutely eyesore, these absolutely ugly female characters into video games, because it's envy. They look at themselves, and they actually say this on their blogs. They actually say this on Twitter. They say that they do not want unrealistic depictions of women in fiction because they view themselves as in competition with these fictional characters. They view themselves as, okay, I'm a 45-year-old aunt lady. There is no way that I can compete with Farah from Overwatch. So we need to redesign Farah. We need to make her look more masculine. We need to cover her up. We need to make her boobs smaller so that no single heteronormative man that looks at me and looks at Farah would ever pick Farah over me, right? So you get to see this in a visual medium, but this person says that no, even writers can have this. Like, they will not want to write characters that are better than them. They do not want to write heroes. They do not want to write characters that are popular because of the envy. They do not want to look at a person to look at Martin and then to look at someone like Jon Snow and say, well, yeah, Jon Snow is better, right? At least this is the opinion of the person writing it. And seeing how many consultants and writers that have been involved with Western entertainment are incapable of just writing a decent hero makes me believe this. I genuinely think that they are envious people of fictional characters and they do not want to write the classical hero. This is why they hate Luke Skywalker. This is why they hate most of the heroes and the fans that we grew up with, because they're in competition with their own fiction. When they see a hero, they call them fascist, because they want to feel morally superior to the hero. The only way they can admit that someone has a moral compass at all is if they can feel superior to him in some other way, usually by portraying them as naive and hence doomed to failure. I wonder if this is the same with Tyrion Lannister, where, like, Tyrion is definitely smart, he is incredibly savvy, but he's a dwarf, right? Like, he has, like, this other flaw, which makes him impossible of being perfect. So this is why George can write characters with noble motives, but he keeps making them fail. You see, in George's world, heroism must be a sham or a weakness, because then George's own bad character is wisdom and enlightenment instead of just lack of moral virtue. Now, I don't know whether or not this is how George Martin thinks, if it applies to him like a T, but I did notice the trend. So again, just like in art, where you have like all of these diversity consultants that do not want video games to have any attractive female characters in them because they are in competition with those drawings, you may have writers that do not want heroes to be written because they also view themselves in competition with those heroes. So I found this to be incredibly insightful. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.